G'day folks, welcome to this week's episode of Learn to Paint TV. Rod Moore here with you again from Learn to Paint Academy. And this week we're going to do a little painting of a scene on Noosa River. Now over the last week I've been involved in a week-long plein air painting event here on the Sunshine Coast. And one of the first locations we went to was Noosa River. And I'll show you my paintings from there. So I did this one, this is the first painting I did for the week. It's a panoramic view of Noosa River. So we're going to do a little mini version of this painting here today in this week's episode of Learn to Paint TV. I'll show you the photo in just one moment. So that's the panoramic view. I also then, in the same event, did a smaller view, and this is what we're going to do today, is a view just like this one here. Okay, so there's the scene. Now, one of the traps with, I took this photo while I was standing there getting ready to paint. And you know, one of the traps for beginners is when we go out on location to paint, or even looking at a photo like this, there's so much information, and knowing what to put in and what to leave out can be overwhelming and confusing. I'm going to start out down here on the palette just with a couple of brushes. So I'm going to use a couple of different sizes, right? So I've got 3 of the big hog hair bristle brushes. You don't need 3, you can use 1, but I like having a few of each size, so I don't have to constantly wash my brushes. However, if you've only got 1, that's fine as well. And then I've got a medium and a small. Okay, and these are hog hair bristle brushes. We're going to do most of our painting with those. And then we're going to start out. I'm going to use the acrylics. So we're going to use my French ultramarine blue, the permanent alizarin crimson, and some titanium white for the start, and then we'll add our yellows in as we get going here with this painting. Okay. So friends, as always, we're going to use the Moore method of painting, which is a simple 3-step process, 3 colors and 3 brushes. And we're going to keep this really, really simple so that anybody can have a go at this one. And if you're a bit more experienced, then by all means, add more detail into it. You've got the photo reference there. And if you want to use water mixable oils or traditional oils, you can follow the exact same process, okay, that we're going to use here today. So let's get underway with step 1. Okay, so step 1's our drawing step, where we're going to get those big shapes in on the canvas that we're going to use. Now I'm using, the canvas up here is an 11-inch by 14-inch canvas, okay? So it's a little bit squarer than the big painting that I showed you earlier, but that's fine. We'll modify it to suit, and it's the same shape as the smaller one that I showed you. So what we're going to do is take our small brush here, okay? A little flat brush. I'm going to dip it in some clean water in a bucket. I'm going to take our ultramarine blue and our alizarin crimson. We're just going to mix those two together until we get a nice little puddle of dark paint. Now we want to keep this paint fairly thin. Okay, that means more water or more thinner if you're using oils. Okay, see, that's like an ink-like consistency. That's what we want to get it to. So out of the tube, it's thicker than that. So we don't want to use it the same thickness out of the tube. We want to use that paint thinned down like so, especially for the drawing, okay? Now the very first thing to identify here is we've got this river, which is going to be the main part of the bottom section of the canvas here. So we need to identify where is that sort of horizon line of the river. And it sits around about there, okay? And then from there we can run out that side of the river. We pop some trees in there like so. Okay, now I'm not going to try and get this 100% accurate. I'm just going to do it in a way that is a little scene that anyone can emulate. Now this line of trees over here is further away, so it's going to be smaller than this group of trees here. So we'll just pop that in. And it's all about big shapes. So currently we've got big shape number 1 there, right? This is another shape here, number 2. And that leaves the water here as shape number 3, okay? And usually there's about half a dozen big shapes that you can identify in a painting. And if you can break it down into just half a dozen shapes, your life will become so much easier, right? So that's the mountain there, that's big shape number 4. Okay, and then we've got the mountain at the back of that comes up to around about there, and it runs away there. Okay, Something like that. So that's mountain number 5, or big shape number 5. That leaves our sky, big shape number 6. So now we're going to come in, we're going to start blocking in our darks. And the key here is to get our darkest darks in first and then move progressively forward. So this section here, with the river embankment with the trees, that's going to be our darkest dark. Then we're going to come back to this group of trees, going to be our next dark, then this one, and then this one. Okay, so there are our dark patterns. Then we've got our sky colors, and we've got our watercolors, which will reflect the sky. I'm going to put a nice little warm sort of sun glow through here, and we'll reflect that into the water down here. Okay, so it'll make for a nice little painting, but let's get those darks in first. So in order to be able to do this, I'm just going to use the same colors, the ultramarine blue, the alizarin crimson. I'll add some white to our palette, because we will use that. And I'm going to move to the big brush, okay, with some water. Just dip in some water. So we'll get our darkest darks in first. So we'll take our blue and our red. We'll mix up our dark, okay, like so. And then let's just get that color in here and block that in. Don't worry too much about getting it just right and perfect and so on. At this stage, it really doesn't matter, because what we're doing here is we're setting up a values pattern, okay, darks to lights. Now, if you haven't painted this way before, or you haven't seen me do a painting like this, and you're wondering why all those darks, well, this is the shadow inside the trees. When you go and look at a cluster of trees, you know, on a sunny day, there's always shadow, dark shadows within them. Okay, and this is what we're basically painting here, is the shadow part of the trees. We'll come back in and put the warmer highlight parts on in a moment. But we start with our darks, and this is a traditional sort of oil painting approach, but it translates beautifully across to acrylics as well, which is what I'm using here. I'm using the Acrylic interactive acrylics. So now I've added a bit of white into that mix to lighten the value, but I don't want it too light, so I'm adding it back a bit of blue, because we want to cool this tone down. So it's got to be a little bit bluer than what we've just put up there. Okay, so you can see if I take that up here, and you can hold it against there, you can see that what we've already put down is darker, and this is going to be just that little bit lighter in value. Okay, see that? This is how it's lighter because of the white, but it's also just that little bit cooler in temperature because it's a little bit more blue. Okay, and this is a real key to getting aerial perspective, is to understand how warm colors come forward, cool colors go back. And if you can get an understanding of that, then you can start to create depth and atmosphere in a painting. And then let's just test this here. It's got to be a difference, okay? And there is a difference there. It's definitely cooler. Go a touch lighter, okay? And you want to see a noticeable difference between the two tones. This one wants to be warmer and darker, and that one wants to be just that little bit cooler and lighter. Now, it's probably not light enough, but I can fix that up when we put our highlights on. So I'll go with that, because I think it's a nice tone for a distant mountain. Okay. And we'll just run that up into there. Run that through there. Good. Notice I haven't got those edges too hard. They're a little bit rough along the edges. Okay, that's what you want. You don't want really hard, solid edges there at the moment. And now we come back to that next mountain behind that. Just lighten that off a little, and then add a little bit more blue into it. Okay. Like so. And we want a subtle difference here. We don't want a huge jump. And that's probably there. We'll just add a little bit more white into that. Now, because I've only used so far 2 colors plus white, it's very easy for us to manage what we're doing. So to do that, we're going to take a big brush again. Okay, I'm going to take a little touch of the water and a big scoop of the white. See that? Okay, well, plenty of white, because we want this sky to be a light value compared to the mountains that we've already done. And we're going to start with a little touch of the red. Okay, we'll pop the red there and a little touch of the yellow ochre. Okay, we're going to mix those two together and we want a nice little glowing orange type of effect. And maybe a touch of the cad yellow just to warm it up a bit. Think sunlight colours, right? There we go. And don't over mix it. See, I've got a little bit of a broken colour in there, some yellows poking through and some of the reds poking through. That broken colour's good. Okay. Now that paint's quite thick, so I'll get a little pinhead of the water, just thin it back. Okay, touch more of the white perhaps, touch more of the red. Okay, and then scoop it all up. See that there? And come over to our palette, and I want the sun to be coming through this section here. Okay, and then we'll reflect it into the water. So we'll just start scrubbing in some sunlight. Okay, now I want to get a bit of variety of colour, but when I come up to this side of the mountain here, I'm just going to blur that line a little there. Don't make it too straight an edge, so just break that up a little. Come around our trees here. Now I do just want to break that colour up a little bit, so I'll get a little bit more of the red in there. And let's just add a little bit of a change in tone. Okay, here and there. Maybe pop a bit out there. Get a little touch of this blue. Let's mix that together. Okay, we need to have a little touch of blue in the sky, I feel. Again, a bit more water. Okay, and then let's just come in and fill in the parts. So just paint around what we've already done. Okay, don't try and paint into it just yet. Along the top of that mountain there. In there, a little bit over on that side there. So you see that, how I've just worked around the colours we've already got. So now I'll come back to the brush and I'll pull all the paint out of the brush. See that? Try and get that fairly dry. It doesn't have to be perfectly dry. And then I can come up to where the edges meet here and just feather them together just lightly. Pull a bit of the blue into the warmer tone and pull a bit of the warmer tone into the blue. Okay, looking good. What do we need to do now with the water is just reflect those same colours in. So I'll give the brush a clean. I'll mix up the same colour paints and we'll just pop it straight in the water so it's like a mirror image, but we'll paint it vertically. So you notice with the sky, my brush marks are going in all different directions. Now we want to paint vertically to make the water look flat. Okay, we don't want the water jumping all over the place. So we'll get some more of that white into that mix. Get some more of that yellow ochre, get some more of the red, not too much. A little touch of the yellow. Now these colours can be a little bit stronger, not as much white. Okay, a little touch of the water to make it flow. And that is going to sit in here, like so. Now remember, we're just blocking in at this stage, so we don't have to get this perfect. We can come back and refine the water. I don't like to come back to my sky if I can avoid it, but the water will certainly come back and paint back into this, no problem. Okay, so we're reflecting all that light there, and then around that we will put that blue. Let me get some more white. Touch of the water. And again, same principle, we'll just work around that sunlight colour and then we'll come back in and we'll soften it in. You're going to work fairly quickly because this is acrylics. It will dry fairly quickly, so don't dilly-dally with this part of it, especially where we've got a big area like this. Water's a large area in the painting. So there you go, folks. I hope you can see how simple and easy this approach is. Anyone can do this, right? And this is why at the Learn to Paint Academy we've had more than 30,000 people go through our courses now, and we've had some fantastic results with students who didn't even think that they could paint. If you follow this process, we make it really, really easy for you. 3 steps, 3 colors, 3 brushes, basically, right? And we're right on track here now to turn this into a lovely little painting of Noosa River. So what I need to do now, because this is acrylics, is I need to pause and just let that dry fully. You don't want to work into acrylics while they're tacky. It's best to wait until it's fully dry. So I'm going to go and have a cup of tea, half an hour, maybe an hour, come back, and then we'll come into step 3 where we'll pull this together as a nice little painting. And if you're working in oils, you can continue on from here if you want, but I'll have a little break and we'll be back very shortly. Cheers. Okay folks, welcome back. We're now going to go and do step 3 here, where we're going to do our details, our finishing touches and our highlights, and really bring this painting together. So let's go down to our palette. Okay, so I've just refreshed our paints here, and we are ready to go. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start out with, I'll go to a medium-sized brush for this, I think might be appropriate. And we're going to start on this side of the river. We'll put in some highlight, some trees in here, then we'll go to that embankment there. That'll give us a starting point to build up our different layers of detail here. So we're going to use some green, so I'll start with our blue here. Okay, take some of that, some yellow ochre, and the combination of those two together should give us a nice mid value. So I'll add a little bit more yellow ochre into that. And that's a nice middle green sort of tone there. Now, because we're going to do highlights, what I'm going to do, see how the brush is loaded with paint there? I'm just going to pull some of that out. So you don't want too much paint in your brush. Okay, you want to control the amount of paint in your brush. So I'll pull all the paint out, and then I can just come in and just load up my tip, and that way I know how much paint's there. So I can make sure I don't put too much paint down initially. So these trees, the light's coming from here. So we want to create these little sort of shapes of the trees, and we want to preserve our darks as well in here, okay? So I'll just work that around. Don't paint out all your darks. If you've seen my videos before, you'll know I often mention that, because it's very easy to get carried away with this step. Okay. Okay, and now what we can do is just come in and take some of this boost yellow, our cadmium yellow light, or our lemon yellow. We'll just warm that up a bit. Don't mix it the whole puddle, just a little bit there. Okay. And because we want to capture that sort of sense of the sun there, I'll take just a little pinhead of the red into it. Well, that's probably a little bit much, but not to worry. Okay. So we want a lighter, warmer tone, which we've got there. So again, I'll pull paint out of the brush and then just come in and load the tip. Okay, load the tip. And come up here. And we just work around those edges there. Not everywhere, but just here and there. I think, where would the sun be catching the top of these trees? So definitely along the outer edge there, not so much down lower. And I'm angling it towards where the light is. Just create little clusters of those trees catching a bit of light there. Okay, now again I'm going to pull that paint out of the brush, just load up the tip, and let's just see if that's looking right. So along this edge here of this mountain, we're going to be catching, you know, some of that highlight. Like so. So I'll paint that in, and really we're probably going to bring that through to around about there. create a little ridge of it through there. Okay, now don't fuss with this too much. Just think, where would the light be coming from? And where would it be catching on the tops of the trees there? I'll go a little pinhead bluer in there now, just so we don't use all the same tone. Okay, we'll just work some of that into some of the lower parts so it's a little bit cooler in tone. Let's just put in a very light hint of it though. Okay. A little bit of highlight on the back there. Very good. So that leaves us now with a few little details. I'll go to a smaller brush here now. I'll get some titanium white. I'm not going to do a huge amount more to this painting because really I think if you get that we're up to here working, then you know you've come a long way to getting this painting right. So I'm just mixing up a yellow ochre and white, and I've just taken some of the grey in here just to grey it back a bit. Actually probably wants to be a little bit more yellow, a little bit more white, but just that little bit of grey just so that it's not too bright a tone. And let's just load up the tip of that brush, come back up to the board here, and we'll just put in some distant sand. That's too much, so I'll just smudge it back in with my finger a little, like so. Now I'm going to do this very loose and impressionistically. You can sit there and try and paint all the details of the boats, and if you want, you know, you'll see them in the photo there. But basically what I'm going to do is just put in little indications of boats and things in here. Okay. And that. And then we'll pop a few in here, a bit bigger ones in there like so, maybe one slightly bigger one here. Okay. And what I might also do is take our white. Maybe I can use this spot here. We'll just mix up the same, that morning sunrise colour from the sky. And mix some of that up. A bit more red. A bit more of the cad yellow. Like so. And I'll just work some of these in just in a few places in here, just to get that sort of glare effect coming from the sky here. Okay, so I'll just work in some ripples in the water there, and I'll place them strategically so it looks like it's that warm light bouncing. I've gone fairly yellow there, but I actually think it works. So a few a bit further out, just add a little bit more life into that water. And then we'll just add a few little tiny little detail touches into these boats. And then we've got a nice little impressionistic view of Noosa River. Obviously it's, you know, it's a little bit quicker, the approach, than what I've done with those paintings I showed you earlier. But you can take more time. This is just a demonstration, so you feel free to take more time. Okay, we'll get that white. So we go for a more pure white now. And the reason why I put the boats over against here is so that we've got these darks, so we can start to just pop in some masks like so. You can put in more masks than what you've actually got boat shapes, because there could be boats behind boats. And you know, people won't know whether there's boats behind the boats. So you can just create little indications, and then we'll just drag some of those down into the water as well. I'm not going to bother putting reflections for all the boats. You could do that if you want. You only need a few little marks though like that to start to get the feel of boats being there. Okay, and then we'll just come in here, pop a few little highlights there, pop a bigger mask right there, run that out through there, get a slightly more grey version just to pop in that reflection there. Now this one does have a blue, I don't know if it's showing in the photo, but there was a boat there that had this blue sail, kind of like that there. And because I've used that blue, I'll just pop it in a few of the other boats in there. Okay. Just so that it's not out there on its own. And we probably need a dark mask or two as well. So I'll get that red and the blue. Okay. Mix those together. Get a nice dark. Just realised I was too much in front of the painting there. Sorry about that. Pop a few masks in here. A bit harsh, so I'll just soften that back in. And I can fix that by just taking some of that yellow tone from before. And we'll just paint out that. Where I've gone that a little bit too dark on that mask, I'll just get a little bit of white and just paint over that. Maybe a little touch of red with this boat here. Again, just echo that colour in a few spots. Run a few extra bits and pieces in here. And there we go, folks. I think I'm going to leave it there. Keep it really simple. I want to make sure that anyone can do this, so I don't want to overcomplicate it. I've painted this in a way that's really designed for the absolute beginner to have a go. And it's a little version, a variation of a theme. And let me show you the one that we're working on. Now, this painting here took me, 2 or 3 hours. This one you can do in 20 minutes. So this is a simplified version of this one that I did, on plein air. So I wanted to show you that you can take a complex subject, which, you know, if you have a look at the photo that I was working from, actually I wasn't working from the photo originally, I was working from life, right? I've taken a little subset of that photo now and moved the boats around and things like that, over exaggerated the size of the mountains and the colours to make a painting, right? We're not trying to recreate a photo, we're trying to make a painting. And it's a happy little painting, and it's a good one to have a go at. So I highly recommend you do have a go at this one. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I've shown you how we use the Moore method of painting, 3 steps, 3 colours and 3 brushes. So please have a go at it. It's a great little subject to start learning how to paint this style of painting as well. Hope you've enjoyed this week's episode of Learn to Paint TV. Now, if you haven't done so already, make sure you go and register for our free course. We give away a complete free course on the Moore method of painting, where I go into everything in a lot more detail. And there's 4 different painting demonstrations there for you. The web address is underneath me here at the Learn to Paint Academy. Just go and follow that, and look forward to seeing you there. And look out for next week's episode of Learn to Paint TV. Cheers for now.